Okay, right, now I've done determinism, being a determinist. Earlier I did the free part, and I thought I might as well, while it's in my mind, finish off the will part. And then that kind of gets us to, well, my favourite bit, which is the what does it all mean? And to my mind it means there's no point being a you, there's no point to it. Who would want to aspire to be something that either isn't or is useless, ineffectual? Right, so we've done the free part, let's do will. So the scenario for will is a classic scenario, rape. Let's go for a 6-year-old girl, because, no, 8-year-old girl. 8-year-old, yeah, about right. And in this scenario you can do the right thing or fuck the little minx. So that's the scenario. So let's have the ending of the scenario A and B. Ending of the scenario A, Angel on the shoulder whispers, and Angel gets its way, and you take the little darling by the hand and lead it to safety, and all ends happily ever after. So that's our scenario ending A. Scenario ending B, you fuck the little bitch. And as she's screaming and whatever, you bash her head in with a rock to stop her screaming, and then fuck her some more. That's scenario ending B. So in normal parlance, the way we normally talk of it, for scenario ending A, what we have is willpower was utilised by you and all was well. It's a bit trickier with scenario ending B, fucking the little tyke. What happened there? Now, we have to go back a bit to know where our language came from, so we know what will come to mind, because what comes to mind will be language, and it will be tinted by the past. Is this whole thing out of focus, or is it my glasses are out of focus? Does it matter? Right, so we've got two main things in the past, which is the religious past and the legal past. And really the religious past comes first, where we had the gods and God and the soul was given by God, and the soul knew the difference between good and evil, and could choose between good and evil, and etc., etc. And the law kind of latched onto that and continued in a similar way. So in, as I said, ending A, which all ended happily ever after, the free will was utilised for the good, and everything was fine. And we got to the ending B and asked, well, what's happening here? For the religious people and the hangover, which is to the law, the soul, the you, did not exert enough willpower over the devil on the shoulder, whispering in your ear, and you did naughty. You shouldn't have fucked her, oh no. And you will be punished by going to prison and not getting into heaven, because you did not exercise enough willpower. Right, now, that's kind of a description of how we'd normally describe things. but we have to be not scientifics, maybe a bit presumptuous, a bit more logical, something like that, something a bit logically scientific-y, where we say, well, again, we're on this strange level where sending somebody to jail or saying they don't go to heaven or whatever because they didn't exercise the free will necessary as a reasonable member of society could be expected to do, best go to prison and we'll forget heaven and hell. All seems reasonable, but like we had with the free part and the whole determinism thing, it's opposite the free will. It sounds good from here to here, but it's actually based underneath here on just made up shit. And that's the problem. It all sounds good in the middle, but it's based on shit. So we have to go not so much determinism. Can we ignore determinism in this? I'm not sure. We'll just have to see how we go. But we're on a bit more of a scientific. We're trying to put a foundation down, as opposed to there being no foundation here, but it being reasonable enough here. We're trying to put a foundation down, and then maybe we can do something higher up, which is a bit more solidly based. So, in the past again, religion, when it let scientific type people, cut up dead bodies and have a go at live bodies and all that sort of stuff. Obviously, one of the first things they went round looking for was the soul, because find one of those and you get to be famous. You're proving a scientific, in a scientific way, a religious, dogmatic thing. So that would be wondrous. So they looked all right. They looked, and they're still looking. They're not looking for the soul now. They can call it the seat of consciousness or anything. But basically, what they find is a brain, and it's complicated. And there isn't one soul centre that controls the rest. There isn't a little wedge of the pie, a 5% wedge that controls the 95. Because that would be stupid. I mean, just logically, what database does the 5 use to control the 95 that's got which database? It's illogical. There's obviously a brain with different functioning parts. It's a system which struggles for dominance is an expression that just came to mind. So I don't think we can finish this video without saying something about what we can call a reptile brain, a monkey gorilla brain, and the human brain. For the human brain we have the neocortex or something like that, which takes us to Phineas Gage, if you've heard of him. Anyway, he was an old American railway worker that got a tamping iron up through the eye and it shattered his frontal cortex, and he was a decent chap beforehand and he turned into a bit of a bastard afterwards. Basically, afterwards he would listen to the devil. Right. So we'll leave that aside, accepting its existence, and ask the question again that we asked at the beginning: what happened in ending scenario B, fucking the bitch? I don't think on this side, on the slightly scientific-y side, that we can accept that there was a lack of willpower used. It still sounds right because we're used to this, the grammar, the way we talk, and we're used to it, but it isn't actually right. And you can kind of get an idea that it's not really right by saying, well, over here it might have, it could be that we want to say that the neocortex is the one that's using the willpower and exercising it over the gorilla part of the brain and the brain stem, which could be called the reptiles brain or something like that. But the fact is that part of the brain, or parts of the brain, be the old brain or ancient brain, the reptile brain, in case B, which is a reasonable scenario that I put forward, because these sort of things happen, those parts of the brain won out against the neocortex, if we want to put names on them. But I don't think I want to put names on them because it gets a bit overfaluting. It sounds as though I know what I'm talking about when I obviously don't. I think the best we can say is that the simple way of saying it is one part of the brain, one will over another part of the brain. In scenario A ending, one part of the brain was the winning will against another part of the brain. In scenario B, it was a different part of the brain which was the winning will against another part of the brain. Basically what I'm saying is, it isn't just that one part of the brain has will to use on other parts of the brain, as it sounds like it is in our grammar. It's sometimes one part of the brain wins out, and another time another part of the brain wins out. And the brain being so complicated, we can imagine that sometimes another part of the brain wins out when it's in cahoots with this one, and maybe this one, and this one all get together, three of them against these two on the next occasion and win out. What we have is different parts of the brain winning out against other different parts of the brain. Or, simply put, one time one part of the brain wins out, another time another part of the brain wins out. And that's all it is, balancing, winning out. Now, to my mind, I go against the grammar of it, where we have willpower. I don't think it's necessary or useful to continue to use the word will, because it's superfluous. A win does the job quite well. We like to use it here in the court case or in Going to Heaven or Not, but what I'm explaining is not so scientifically advanced or hard to understand, that what's actually happening is where one part of the brain will win out against another. Why do we say that one is willpower when it wins and it's not willpower when it loses? See, there's no particular logic. And if we want to maintain the logic, just throw will away, the word will away completely, and say sometimes one part of the brain wins and sometimes another part of the brain wins. And then there's all sorts of complications. You can say different parts of the brain win out against other different parts of the brain. Or you could say sometimes the neocortex wins out against the old and the ancient brainstem. But quite frankly, keep it simple. One part of the brain just wins out against another part of the brain, or one part of the brain wins out against another part of the brain. What this video is about, we've done determinism, which doesn't really come into this, it seems. We've done the free part that I did this morning, and now this is the will part of free will. I don't think will is a word that really helps us at all. It doesn't help us in our explanation of what actually is happening. It's useful in a court, perhaps, and it might be useful for St. Peter at the pearly gates, but actually in the mature, modern, advanced sort of setting, I don't think it is needed at all. In fact, I think it's a retrograde step to use the word will at any point, because the will always be latched onto the old things in the old grammar, the vocabulary, the way of working, and it will always imply that there is a part of the brain which is us, which can win out against the massed forces of the other part of the brain. which is how our language implies it works. But hopefully, as this video has explained, it just doesn't work like that. It can't work like that. It's a brain, it works. Sometimes one part wins, sometimes another part wins. Will really doesn't come into it at all. So I'll leave it there, and I think this one might promote some comments. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it doesn't at all. See what your will thinks of it. See which parts of your brain win out. Thanks for watching. Bye.